Hello, welcome back to the Plant Guy. Why am I out here in the middle of the snow when we're talking about plants? I'm starting seeds. And these. Hello. So it's snowing and I'm going to put some seeds in the ground. That's what they said to do. So what I have are some poppy seeds. We're going to be just putting directly onto the snow. They apparently need a cold stratification period in order to germinate and then have early spring poppy flowers. So I've got a bunch that I got on Etsy. Let's see what I have. I have peony salmon. So these are like super tiny seeds, if you can see them. So I hope they all stick around with the melting. I have poppy red giant. I have amazing gray poppies. Antique peony shades. And then this bag just of a mix of colors. So just a ton of those. So I'm just hoping to document this and have some awesome results that I can show you all when it comes time. Okay, so the first one I'm going to put down is the mixed color poppies. There's quite a few seeds in here, so I'm just going to dump them all out and sprinkle. I've decided I'm going to mix all the different varieties because there's no way of separating them anyways. So it'll just be little surprises and pops of colors if this works. Okay, so that was pretty easy. I just threw everything in the snow. You can see there were little, tiny little dots of seeds just all along this area that my dogs are trampled on. So we will see if they stay in place and what they do when it comes time. Stay tuned. Okay, it is a mess outside. It's snowing. I am itching to get my hands in the dirt. So we're starting seeds. What we're doing is called winter seed sowing. And the whole purpose of doing winter, there are several reasons. But number one, you get to start early. You get your plants a head start, and hopefully if you're doing flowers, earlier blooms, or an earlier harvest for the garden. The other big factor is you don't have to take up your entire family's kitchen or living room or wherever. How I've done it in the past, I take up a lot of space. You don't need grow lights. You don't need shelving systems. Everything is taken care of out wherever you have space outside in a sunny, partially sun area, and you don't have to water them like crazy where you do inside, because seedlings, they dry out like that. So what do you need to get started? So you need some sort of semi-clear vessel that will hold up through the elements. So most people, or the most common, is going to be gallon-sized jugs. Mine is dripping because it has been outside in the snow getting preconditioned, I guess, for no reason. So you can get these for free if your family goes through milk, or this one happens to be an orange juice. I have gotten all mine, because we don't drink milk here, from my neighbors. Thank you to Courtney and Stan. From one of my coworkers, Patty, thank you, and Michelle. So it's been really nice that we can recycle these and reuse them for something meaningful and purposeful, and get some great plants. Hopefully, we'll do an update when they start germinating here in a few months. So you need your containers. You obviously need your seeds. So what I'm doing today are mostly your colder hardy annuals or your perennials, or anything that needs cold stratification, like your lavender. Lavender does really well. You can also put it in the fridge for a few weeks to get that process started. But I'm just going to throw them in a milk jug in the middle of winter and see how that goes. You also need something to cut your jug with. I'm just going to use a utility knife. You need a Sharpie. Always label. I know from past experience, I don't know what is what or where I put anything. So I'm going to label it both on the outside, and just in case it gets rubbed off, I'm going to do a label on the inside too to help keep it protected. You need some good old-fashioned duct tape. So some people use the clear packing tape. I just want to use duct tape just to make sure it stays on throughout. We have dogs. They could be rustling around in it. And you need your soil. This is very important. You do not want to use a seed starting mix. These are going to be living in there potentially for a month or so, or longer, depending on how lazy you might be getting around to it. So I'm going to use an all-purpose potty mix. This has great drainage. You can also supplement if you want to use some vermiculite or perlite, but it has, most importantly, nutrients in it. This will help keep your seedlings sustained and growing throughout that time when you can't quite put them out after until your frost-free date. So keep that in mind when you're picking up your soil. No seed starting mix. So I have not done this yet. I have 23 of these to do, and hopefully I need 5 more. I'll show you why when I do my organization. So we're going to get this prepped. Take your cap, throw it away. You do not need the cap. The purpose of doing this for watering, whatever snow, ice melt, rain will all come in here and keep everything moist enough for your seedlings to germinate, and then after that sustain their first couple of weeks. You can do supplemental water in here if you have a dry period. Some people live in drier winter climates. So you'll just use like one of the pump sprayers or something really fine, because you don't want to do anything directly in here besides Mother Nature, and move around your seeds. So that's step 1. Step 2, before we cut this almost in half, go ahead and flip it over, and we need to put some drainage holes because it has potential to flood and stay too wet inside for your seedlings. I'm just going to use the utility knife. You can also you can burn a piece of a nail and stick that in and burn some holes. I'm just going to use this. So I want to get at least 5 in here. So I'm just going to stick it down. That went in very easy. And just do a quick twist. So I'm going to do that 4 times on the exterior part. I'm trying to get wherever the lowest spot of the jug is so that water doesn't sit in a certain part. And I'm going to do, I have 1 right in the middle. Maybe. Okay. This caved in a little bit when I did that, but I can, once this is fully open, I can get down there and knock it down. For the purpose of this, I'm not going to be taking the labels off of here. I think there's going to be plenty of light penetration from the top of the milk jug. So I'm not going to do that. You do not want to cut all the way through. You still want to have a handle on whatever you're using. So you're going to start from one side of the handle and you work your way all the way around almost to the full other side. So let's try it. I'm going to give about 2 inches from the handle. I'm going to follow whatever natural line I'm seeing on this. Try to keep it as even as possible. I definitely could have done better, but that is okay. Okay, not too bad. So I have a little flap. Now I can go in here, push that back out, and this is where we'll be putting our soil and our seeds. And then once that is finished, you close it up, kind of like a clamshell, and then you just put duct tape around, and that seals it in. And therefore, you've made a mini greenhouse. So even when it gets freezing outside or snowing or below 32, and your seedlings have started to sprout, they will have some protection within the mini greenhouse, free mini greenhouse that you've created for your seedlings. The other benefit that I forgot to mention is you don't have to harden off your seedlings. So remember, when you sow seeds inside on your windowsill or your grow room or whatever you've got going on, you have to slowly acclimate your seedlings to the temperature, the wind, and the UV from the sun, which is a big shock to your seedlings. So each day for a week or 2 weeks, you have to take them in a little bit longer outside, a little bit longer, haul them all back in. And if you have a flower farm or a large garden, that's a full-time job. So I don't want to do that. So this is winter seed sowing. So I am very excited if you cannot tell already. So what I'm going to do is get all these prepped. Then I'm going to show you what all seeds I'm going to attempt to try this year. A couple no-nos, and I just want to see what's going to happen, like zinnia. Might do a tomato. We'll see how many jugs I have left. And then we'll go from there. So now that I have gotten all 23 of my containers prepped, let's talk about the seeds that we're going to be starting. So again, these are going to be things that aren't going to necessarily die as soon as a frost hits, especially in their mini greenhouse. So we're going to do some snapdragons. I've got 3 different varieties of snapdragons. We can get some early blooms for those. This is also getting good for perennials, so I have some echinacea. I got these as a seed swap, so I have no idea what color they will be, so that'll be a fun surprise. I've got perennial blue lobelia, some straw flower. This is one of the things, I have like 5 different varieties of zinnia that I'm going to try this year. These are just some cheapos. That's going to be one of the ones that I try out and see if they take. Then we have some butterfly bush from Baker's Creek. I've got the carnations, the dianthus. And then I have 2 different varieties of pansies that I'm going to start as well. Those are some of my favorite flowers to get in the ground right away for some spring color. Last year I grew them and it snowed and they kept flowering, which was awesome. Got a mixed color of foxglove. We talked about lavender having to do the cold stratification, so I have that. I'm going to give it a whirl. I've never had success with lavender. This is the year. I have some Status and candy, what is this one? Cotton Candy Blend. We have Cosmos and like a seashell mix, they call it. Some more straw flower, some Status. So you're noticing maybe a trend that some of these are pollinators and some of them are cut flowers, so I'd love to try some of those out this year. And then one of my coworkers, Patty, thank you again, supplying a lot of the milk jugs here. I have some butterfly weed that she's collected. And then I'm super excited about the Baptisia false indigo perennial plants. There are a ton of seeds in here, so hopefully I'll be able to give some of those away to people as well. And then part of a seed swap, I have pink hardy hibiscus. And then, I don't know how you say this, gwym, but it's the native prairie flower. So we may get blooms off of it if they germinate this year, or it might happen next year. But I'm really intrigued about this one to see how it goes. So those are all the seeds I'm going to try. Time to talk about soil. So we talked about the quality of soil that you need to have. They have to have nutrients to supply your seedlings for a while. But you don't want to put this from the bag into your container and then moisten it, because you could, how we're going to place the seeds, you could disturb those. So you want to get it fairly wet to start with and then put them outside. And it is okay if it freezes and then thaws and freezes. It simulates, it is in Mother Nature, and that's how they happen anyway. So I'm going to add some water. Feels kind of fun, kind of like summertime again, but not quite. My water's a little cold. Okay, this is getting pretty close to what I'm going after. So this is about what I want. So when you squeeze it together, very little, if any, water comes out, but it stays together. So that shows me that it's got plenty of moisture in there. And then with all the snow that we've been getting, I know that it's going to sustain itself too. So you can also check your weather forecast and make sure if you're going to have a major monsoon coming through, maybe you don't have to have it as pre-moistened as you would. So that's good. That's where I want this. I know I'm going to have to do this several times with the amount of containers that I have, and that is okay. So let's move on to planting. Now that we have all of our seeds together, our soil is pre-moistened, it's time to grab our container and to fill it up with some soil. My goal is going to be about 2 inches of soil. Let's see. That should give us plenty of room for the roots to develop and grow, and that takes away the transplanting that we would have to do in the traditional way. I'm just lightly tapping it down to make it flat. I'm not trying to really press too hard because you don't want to compact the soil. That could inhibit the root growth on the young seedlings. So first what I'm going to do is the Pansy Swiss Giants blend. These look super pretty, so hopefully those take well. I have 2 packs. I don't know that I will need them both. Let's see how many are in here. Yeah, there are plenty in here. So I'm probably just going to do about half of the pack. You can see the seeds are really tiny. And my goal, I'm going to try to get them spread as evenly as possible throughout here. I know they're going to shift around. They're going to move as we get heavy rains, a bunch of snow, sleet, hail, whatever comes our way. And I know I've seen some other people when they do this, they try not to overseed, and I don't want to overseed either. But you can always hop in there and just take some of them out, thin them out as they develop too. I'm just going to lightly cover them up with some soil. That'll make sure that they get good contact and will aid in their germination. And then I'm just going to lightly tap that to make sure they have plenty of compact. Now, we don't have to water this in because we've started off with pre-moistened soil, and we're not shooting for an instant germination. These are going to germinate as soon as Mother Nature says it is go time. So we have those ready to go. Just going to wash my hands off a little bit. And then I'm going to seal it up with our duct tape. But first, I need to label. So I'm going to do a label on the inside and a label on the outside just to make sure I know what in the world is going on in there. So these are Swiss, Giant, Pansy. I'm going to write the date on as well. This happens to be February 6th. That way I know when we put them in. And I'm going to put it towards the back. And my hope of this is I can peek in the hole and see what this is, just in case the outside doesn't stay. So then I'm going to take my duct tape, close up our little container, and we're going to start closing it up. Just gently tap around, trying to get this contact with every surface, because I don't want any cold bursts of air coming in through this after they've germinated and before they're ready to go out and be transplanted. So just making sure we're good there. Okay, so on the outside I'm going to take a Sharpie, and that's where I'm going to label on the outside, so if I can't peek in there and see, I can at least know what it is on the outside of my container. So we have Swiss, Giant, Pansy, and I'll go ahead and put the date on here too, even though I'm should be sowing most of them on the same day. I won't do it for every single one. And there you have it. So this should be ready to go. I can't wait to see what happens. I'm not going to bore you by doing every single one of my 23 containers that I have right now. So I'm going to do the rest of them off camera, and I'll show you the end result and how I'm going to organize these.
So I know it is dark out. That took me much longer than expected, but I wanted to show you how I put them all out in the crate containers just to keep them organized and easier to move around. And then on the outside of each one, I have the name of what is sown, and then you can see down in there potential seedlings whenever that happens during the springtime.